Hey, welcome to Crocker and Cohn. That's Eric Crocker. I'm Grant Cohn. Niners just wrapped up day 2 of training camp a couple of hours ago. I'm sure you guys read all the reports. We're going to start with Trey Lance, who struggled today. I'll give you my impression, but from afar, what was your impression? Like, what is the sense around the fan base right now about what Trey Lance did today?
Well, my initial reaction was I thought that was going to be yesterday. Every training camp, every football team I've been a part of, the defense starts faster. It usually
Yep.
takes the offense a little bit longer to come around. And I'd say even more so when you have a defense that's really good, like the 49ers have. Well, they're projected to be really good. They were really good last year. So I expected some struggles, but I thought day one, I'm like 9 for 11. Like how? And I know some of the things were underneath and things like that, but what happened today, I was expecting to see day one. So definitely no panic or worry or anything for me. The thing I like to see in situations like this is, well, how does he bounce back? Does he do the same exact things where he missed? I heard a slant route behind somebody. Like, does he correct that? Overthrowing the pass, like all those things. Are those mistakes consistent, or do you leave tomorrow's practice saying, oh wow, okay, yesterday he did this, and then today he improved in this way? So that's how I would take it.
It's interesting you mentioned yesterday. So what was the difference between day 1 and day 2? Day 1, they did 7-on-7s. He didn't miss in 7-on-7. Today was all 11-on-11. And so pass protection was an issue. And here's how the day started. Usually, I don't know how your teams did it, but on Kyle's teams, it's always run and play action first. So the first section of practice, he's either going to hand off or play fake. Every time he play fake, the first 3 times, as soon as he turned around, there'd be a defensive end in his face. And you know how it is in practice, like that's a sack, but the play doesn't stop. Like the defensive end gets his credit, but the quarterback keeps going and tries to throw a play.
Throw a random pass that he
Yeah,
would have never really thrown. Yeah.
right. But everything's like messed up. Everything is off script at that point, and that was pretty much his day. He got sacked 5 times. He scrambled twice. He was never really able to get into a rhythm. Those are the excuses. Also, no Deebo. And without Deebo, this offense is pretty weak. But I did see something that he needs to fix. And I think maybe it's just early. But to me, I think he has an issue throwing left. Throwing left is hard. I don't know if you saw this with quarterbacks that you played with, but Colin kind of struggled with this too. A lot of his picks came left. I think the Seahawks figured that out about him. You just don't see it as well. You really have to open up. It's very natural to throw to your right as a right-handed guy. But throwing to the left, you're almost blind unless you really open up. And the pick came to his left today. He threw blind to his left, got intercepted by Jimmy Ward, who was just robbing the slant. Anyway.
Well, yeah, no, that's a great point. And you talked about opening up enough. One thing I remember watching this clip of Tom Brady, and he was talking about like being accurate and throwing the football, and he always talked about pointing that shoulder to kind of where he's throwing the ball to. So you definitely want your shoulder closed, but getting it in that direction. So if I want to throw over here, I'm gonna get my shoulder end in that direction and then follow through that way. And going to your left, it is a little bit harder because now I got to open up all the way to get that shoulder there and then make the throw. So again, that's one thing where do they say something about it in their meetings? Hey, they're probably talking about it right now, right? Like, hey, look what you did here. Just open that foot up or open that step up, etc. And then you just look to see, does he correct it? And that's the thing that I would be looking at most.
Yeah, it's funny to me. Like throwing left is a difficult thing for quarterbacks, underrated. But some guys do it really well. Ironically, you know who throws really well to his left?
Jimmy G?
Yeah, because Jimmy's like a second baseman. He's got his hips already opened up. He has nothing on his throws. Second baseman's throw left. It's that little flip throw. Jimmy has no problem throwing to his left. It's just he doesn't have anything on his throws down the field. He's very opposite from Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a lot like Colin Kaepernick, who was very successful. But once the book was out on him, the whole throwing left thing, I mean, that was a problem for him. I wonder. Well, I mean, the book isn't out on Trey Lance yet. We're starting to learn. But
well, at some point it will be, right? Like at some point there will be things that is like, okay, well, he doesn't do this well or he doesn't do that well. Like that's the one thing that teams are going to try to identify as quickly as possible. And you expect struggles from a young quarterback. I would say it's more so on Kyle to figure out a counter to that, right? So if I know, hey, my guy, throwing left, from certain angles, it's a little tough. But, we do remember, say, preseason. there were a few throws that I thought he made very well to the left,
Absolutely.
but both of them he was out on the move. So maybe if I do want to go left or I do want to roll left, my counter to him kind of struggling just from the pocket to throw left is maybe if I get him out on the move, he can flip those hips and then make those throws. Because I
That's
saw
a
him do
great
it
observation.
three
I
or
noticed
four
the same thing.
times in the preseason. Once to Richie James on a little bootleg in the Chargers game. There was a slant to the left. There was a rollout to Jalen Hurd. Remember, he was going left and he went that way. There was the throw against the Houston Texans where it probably should have went to Kittle right now, but he kind of moved backwards. He was kind of falling back and opened up and threw the ball. So, continuing to kind of figure out ways to work around some of his limitations until he makes it his strength.
He absolutely is good rolling to his left and throwing. And you're right. It's because he can flip his hips. He's such a good athlete. I'm talking about from the pocket throwing left.
Right, from the pocket, yeah.
Remember against Houston, where did he throw his interception?
To the left, yep.
From the pocket. So he's very young. He's inexperienced, something to work on. It's interesting to sort of been so focused on Jimmy the last 5 years and what he doesn't do well. Now we're starting to learn the strengths and weaknesses of his replacement. Big day for him tomorrow. Hold on. We got a couple of questions real quick before we move on. The Meg says, hey guys, what days are training and which are off? They got 2 more on. They got Sunday off. They got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on. They got Thursday
Tuesday,
off.
I mean, typically it's like what, 4 days on, 1 day off? Is that how they're doing it?
1 day off and then 3-1, 3-1. That's how they usually do it.
Okay.
Josh, they changed it, man. Like when I first started covering the league, it would be 2 days, no pads, and then pads the rest of the way. Now it's like 5 days, no pads. Kids these days. Hey, thanks for becoming a member. He says, Richard Sherman just said the secondary could be one of the best in the league this year based on what you've seen so far. Could that be true? Yes. Hufanga looks much better than last year. Mosley looks much better than last year. We're going to talk about him. Ward is good. Both Wards are good. I just don't know who the nickel is. And the Niners don't really test the nickel because they're such a 2 wide receiver team. But we'll see. All right, that's it. Let's move on. Let's talk about this offensive line. I don't mean to bring up excuses, but this offensive line today. Okay, there was no Trent Williams, no Mike McGlinchey, no Daniel Brunskill. And that means Mack and Tomlinson aren't on the team anymore. So you got 5 new guys out there. It's not looking great. Actually, Aaron Banks seemed like he was doing okay. The left side seemed like he was doing okay. It was the right side that kept getting caved in today. That's Spencer Burford and Jalen Moore. They may be really talented, but I don't know if they're strong enough to play yet. So I don't know what I think the Niners really need McGlinchey and Brunskill 1 more year, both of them, to be good.
Yeah. Well, you talked about struggles from Trey Lance. It definitely doesn't help when your offensive line isn't really protecting. You have all those young guys out there right now, but that is good. Listen. Typically, practice, from my experiences, is where you try to figure things out. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be good things that happen. But ultimately, it's what can guys do? What can't they do? Who's getting better? How can you improve? Like, that's typically what you use that time for. And it is tough in training camp or when media is covering things because they're covering everything that happens. And that's kind of just you when it happens. So the offensive linemen right now, they're trying to figure out, okay, who can play? Can you play here? Can you play there? I heard Brunskill taking snaps at the center position. Well, they know he can play guard. So if something bad happens at center, it's like, well, okay, we just put him out to guard. So, there are different things that they're trying to figure out, especially with some of these guys that are reserves. Aaron Bruford, like, can he start, though? Can he start at guard? This is a guy that they drafted at UTSA, an athletic offensive lineman. And they got to figure that out. But also, again, this early in, my answer to a lot of these type of situations is, how does he what does it look like tomorrow? Because I expect guys to get beat. I expect guys to get whooped. Do you compound that mistake with another one the following day? That's when I'm a little alarmed.
If you think about it, this should be expected. So you got no Trent Williams, no Mike McGlinchey, no starting offensive tackles, and Nick Bosa's out there in the best shape of his life. What were we expecting? Colton McKivitz and Jalen Moore against Nick Bosa. You'd almost want to say, if you were Kyle Shanahan, be like, D'Amico, can we just give Nick the day off? We're trying to practice. We can't block Nick Bosa. We have backup offensive attack. I mean, that's the way it used to be with Alden Smith 10 years ago. There'd be some days it's like, man, the offense really can't practice today. I don't know what it is. If Joe Staley had the day off, it's like, dude, you got to give Alden Smith the day off too. That might be part of it. I mean, what are we really expecting Jalen Moore to do? But the thing that's more, I think, concerning is that Spencer Burford really couldn't block anyone today. Armstead was out. Kimball was out. He's a rookie. He's going to need a year. I think he's probably going to need a year.
Yeah, well, I think for him, he's trying to fight for not just a starting spot, but maybe that swing guy
Yeah.
where he can play tackle, he can play guard. But if he's getting beat like a drum by everybody, again, gotta change it quick. And again, it's still early in training camp too. So if I was him, or if I were talking to him, I'd say, look, okay, we see these mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Stay after practice, work on things. I heard Trey Lance was after back practice working on deep throws with Danny Gray. Like,
Good.
cool. Like, do those things. Stay after. Get extra reps with something before it comes to habit. And that is another thing too, especially with rookie offensive lineman. Maybe they're teaching him things differently than he learned at UTSA. Matter of fact, he was a tackle at UTSA. Now
Yep.
they got him playing guard. The footwork is different. The hand placement is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So trying to adjust on the fly, those things as well, working new techniques, that can be a little challenging.
Yeah. If Banks wasn't ready to start it just feels like it's hard to get an offensive lineman who can really step in as a rookie and play well. Those are usually first round picks because
Well,
what
not
I've seen
Banks.
is
I don't
eh,
know if he
usually
can.
the difference between a 22-year-old offensive lineman and a 27-year-old D lineman, like the strength difference is crazy. Those offensive linemen aren't ready right away, at least from my
Grown
spot.
man strength is a real thing.
It is a real thing. I'm 34. You should see how strong. I'm just kidding. Niners daddy says bigger concern O-line or wide receiver group with no Deebo. Wide receiver group with no Deebo is, I don't know.
I would have to say O line would
O-line.
be the bigger concern just because it's really hard to scheme around that. Like if you don't have Debo, you can do things to where you free other guys up with screens, pick routes. You still have George Kittle, different things to get the ball in Aiyuk's hands. But offensive line, you can't really hide that. So
That's true.
again, now we are still talking about an offensive line that does not have a few of their starters out there right now. So that can make things look worse. Think about it like this: if you did have Trent Williams and maybe Brunskill at center and McGlinchey at tackle, maybe the guards look better. So there's that aspect of it. Well, where maybe there's a little help. Maybe there's times where Bruford is supposed to be helped by the tackle, maybe a chip or something, and then he's not getting that help because he has a guy that played limited snaps before, and the communication is off. And one thing about playing offensive line, especially in this like zone scheme and all that, you got to play in sync. You got to play in rhythm. Everybody almost has to move as one. So if a guy is off, that can make things look drastically worse as well.
Waruna wants to know if he should worry about the offensive line even if Trent is available. To me, it's the biggest question on the team. Some people think the quarterback's the biggest question on the team. I don't know if you need to worry about it. There's a lot of things in life to worry about. Don't worry about the Niners. You got enough stress. Thayer Lewis says, do you think Trey Lance will fumble the first snap of the season like Jimmy G did the first game last season? Was that Alex Smith? Was that Alex Mack's butt sweat? Was that the reason that he fumbled that?
He was the one with the sweaty butt, right?
Yeah, the butts. Yeah, sweaty
Yeah.
butt. Cole Harkey says, were most of Trey's misses a result of bad ball placement and not being on time or elite defensive play? Some. You mentioned there was a slant behind a wide receiver. That was bad. He threw a pick right to Jimmy. That was on him. A lot of other ones were he's sacked, he's tagged, he's trying to extend the play. It's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would call today's practice, the technical term for it was a shit show on the offensive side. But again, that happens a lot at the beginning of practice. Camp. What's up, Flav? Trey had a bad day, surprising. I'm on to TDP, though. Easily best vision of any Niners back I've seen since Gore. How do you look today? Yeah, I mean, I think a Jimmy Garoppolo fan should come to expect these bad days from quarterbacks because he made them a regular thing. Ty Davis Price, we're going to talk about him next. He's very interesting, and I think he's kind of we're going to talk about him right now. Trey Sermon versus Ty Davis Price. Real quick, before I say what I've seen, when you evaluated both of them on tape from college, did they have similarities and differences? How do you
I'd say one of the bigger differences that I saw was that Ty Davis Price, I felt like he did a really good job of it kind of reminded me, not saying he's Frank Gore, but there was this ability to really put his foot in the ground, get north right now, get skinny, and his breakaway speed, I say breakaway, he had bigger runs than Sermon was a little better. I just thought the acceleration, and then once he kind of got to that second level, guys just didn't want to tackle him at all. I thought he brought a little bit more power, and I remember it being very clear why I felt like the 49ers felt like he'd be a good kind of combination with Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. And I could see
The vision was good. My bad. His vision. I thought his vision was good.
Okay. To me, like he's the opposite of Trey Sermon, which kind of highlights what they don't like or what they're disappointed about with Sermon. I'm not sure why they like Sermon to begin with, but he's not explosive. Ty Davis Price is. He's not decisive. I think that's the biggest problem. He's a big running back who stops his feet in the backfield and looks to bounce outside. It's like they don't want you to do that on this team, and you're not quick and fast enough to really pull that off in the NFL. Ty Davis Price is extremely decisive, and he just makes one cut and gets downhill and is really fast and hard to tackle. He's not like it's kind of like the difference between Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. Tevin Coleman was always trying to like make the cutback or do something flashy. At least that's the way I saw it. Raheem Mostert didn't do anything flashy. He was just efficient and good. And I think that's kind of what I see from Ty Davis Price. He's not going to make a bunch of cuts during a run, but he's probably better than Trey Sermon right now, the way I see it.
Yeah. That's not good news for Trey Sermon. And I was asked about him potentially having, kind of a good second year. Was it just a one-off? And
he's in good shape.
Yeah, well, shape, that's one thing. But Kyle Shanahan, there's just certain guys he just doesn't really care for. And when he's looking for something, if you had any, I don't want to say faith, but you don't draft a running back third round for no reason, like back-to-back years. Especially after the guy in the previous year, you just didn't want to play him. And when I say didn't want to play him, there was a game where against the Seahawks, he ran for almost 100 yards. And then the very next game when Elijah Mitchell was back healthy, Trey Sermon ran for 7 yards, on one carry. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes him.
Yeah, someone was asked about someone asked Kyle Juszczyk about sort of the changing running scheme or like what they're looking for in the running backs. And he's like, yeah, we don't really have Raheem Mostert anymore, but any running back who gets downhill in our scheme fits our scheme. And that was funny. It's like, so not Trey Sermon. So what you're saying, that's why. And I remember when John Lynch was an announcer. He was announcing a Niner game against Seattle. I think it was 2016. And he mentioned, he's like, I talked to, how they would do before the game? I talked to Tom Rathman, and he said, they really like Carlos Hyde. They just really want him to get downhill and stop bouncing runs outside. It's like, yeah, you just got the next Ohio State running back who does that.
Right.
I can see the Niners being like, dude, we're a physical football team. Get downhill. And if you won't, Ty Davis Price will. So how do you want to do it? That's kind of what it is from what I see. I did want to point out, though, that the Niners have now spent 2 round 3 picks back-to-back years on running backs when they have a serious issue at offensive line. So I want to point out some offensive linemen that they could have had instead of these
hold on, real quick. Before you do that, I do have a question. How did Mason kid look?
He looks good. I think he's going to be on the practice squad and to be a guy who they eventually work onto the team like Jeff Wilson Jr. a few years ago. I don't think anyone's going to take him from the Niners. I think he's going to be a nice project on their practice squad. He looks good. He runs really hard.
My issue with them drafting running backs in the third round is you find these guys late, 6th round undrafted, but then you still use high draft capital, which third round, that's high draft capital on running backs, especially after one didn't work out and the 6th round pick was just better. So it's like, why continue to spend that high draft capital on guys when you're finding guys like Mason who just kind of fit what you do, even if it's not splashy?
Right, and the Shanahan's have been doing that for decades. Meanwhile, if you want to get a good offensive lineman, you probably should get him in the first couple of rounds, at least round 3. And so look, last year they took Trey Sermon like 10 picks over Spencer Brown, who's the current starting right tackle for the Bills. I don't know if he's great, but the Niners did a right tackle unless McGlinchey comes back strong. And then this year they took Ty Davis Price over Logan Bruss, who's a starting right guard for the Rams. I don't know if he's good, but these are just people to monitor because the Niners have an issue on the offensive line and they could have addressed it. And instead they chose running backs, which is like, that's like if we were general managers, we wouldn't do that. It's surprising that Kyle does it. So we'll see. Justin says practices like today will help Lance with adversity. Maybe why so many 2-3 stringers are playing with the first team right now versus a dominant defense. Yeah, he's not getting touched, so he's under a lot of pressure, but it's not dangerous. Okay, see what you mean. Official BNA Music 88 says, you think Kyle's arm better than Purdy's? He was slinging a little bit. Oh, were you there today? Yeah, Kyle likes throwing. Did you have coaches who would do that in practice?
Yeah, well, so one of my coaches, Tim McDonald, obviously he played with the 49ers. Tim McDonald, he was terrible throwing the ball. Like it was, and he always wanted to throw the ball in the drills. And his throwing motion, people talk about Trey Lance's throwing motion, man. Tim McDonald's was like, it was like Phillip Rivers on crack. Like if you think of that type of throwing motion, like it was terrible. But yeah, I definitely have had a lot of coaches that try to live out some childhood dream of being a quarterback.
I didn't know he was a coach. I was an intern at KTVU in 2010, and he used to come in and be a guest all the time. He was a cool guy.
Yeah, he coached at Edison High School in Fresno,
Okay.
and then I believe like the collegiate ranks, and then next thing I know, he's coaching in the NFL. Coached with the Jets for some years. He was our lead defensive back coach, and then I know he was with Buffalo with all those guys as well, Rex Ryan's guys.
Doesn't he have kids in the league or kids who are
He had two boys, one at UCLA, one at USC, and TJ McDonald played some years in the NFL with like the Rams and stuff.
Rams? Yeah, that's cool.
Rams, Dolphins, I think. Yeah.
All right, so Deebo Samuel still hasn't gotten extended, which I think there's time, and I'm sure they're thinking like as long as he's here when the pads go on, like next week, fine. Which so probably they're looking at Sunday or Monday. Still though, I'm thinking if Tory Dandy was there today watching Trey Lance struggle, he'd be like, okay, hey John, we need to talk. Can we watch the film from today? This offense is so different without Deebo Samuel, and I think it's funny how the Niners have really negotiated really hard with him. Like, who are they kidding? They're nothing without him. I mean, maybe on another team he wouldn't be as valuable, but to me, this whole offense is built around what he does, and he should ask for more money today.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of times it's like this little wording that can make it to where a guy just doesn't want to sign the contract. So, what if they put something in there like, all right, he can't eat Chick-fil-A or something, right? Because they want to
Whoa,
keep his
whoa,
weight down.
whoa!
And yeah, it's like hell no,
Yeah,
like that's where
what
we
they
draw
say he
the
has to watch
line. Like,
5 hours of film a week. Like, oh damn.
yeah, right. There's always these like little weird things that they put in some of these contracts. So there's probably something that they disagree on that could make it to where he signed this week. And I did see some of the reports that he'll be signed by the end of the week. I mean, it's already Thursday, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But it's tough. He's your best. He's your best player. Like he's your best football player on your team. He did it all. A guy that carries your team, but they have some kind of concerns. They have to, and I believe that's the only reason why this thing isn't done yet.
It's true.
He showed up,
Yeah.
and again, nothing against Deebo. He's my favorite player. Deebo is my
Yeah.
favorite player on the 49ers. I think he's terrific.
Yeah.
But there's been added weight, and people kind of just throw it on. Well, he's just a thicker guy, and it's like, well, yeah. So is AJ Brown, and
Yeah.
AJ Brown is 1 inch taller than Deebo Samuel, and like he's 200. He weighed
Phenomenal shape.
228 pounds, almost 230 at the combine, and he's rocked up. Now, genetics plays a part in it, but there is a way to be thicker and still take care of your body to the best of your ability. And if they have concerns about Deebo potentially doing that, maybe that's why they've been a little reluctant to just give him whatever he wants.
Fair. That's fair. All I want to say, I guess, is that if anything were to happen to Deebo this year, if he were to be overweight and not as effective, if he were to miss time, his team's in trouble. His team is in trouble. I mean, they were 3-5 last year with him on the field. He had to like bail them out playing running back. Like he is so integral to this team. I mean, maybe Danny Gray is going to turn it on down the line, but right now it's like Kittle's getting a little bit older. I don't think you can give Kittle 9 targets a game. I don't know if you can give Aiyuk 9 targets a game. I don't know.
Yeah, I did see Deebo running sprints on the field. I saw clips of that, and he still looked fast. So maybe the added weight or whatever people say he has going on doesn't matter because he looked fast as hell running that sprint.
And I think the issue with him is not that he loses speed when he puts on weight. It's that he'll pull a hamstring. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Anyway, Deebo Samuel, I'm sure if his agent was there watching today, he was giggling. I would be if I were his agent. All right, let's talk about the other wide receiver who was out there, Brandon Aiyuk. I've been a little down on him the last couple of years because I feel like he's not as explosive as I thought he would be after watching him his rookie year. He's evolved. I would consider him kind of a possession receiver. And today, he made 2 diving catches that were really nice, one over the middle. He took a hit in practice where you don't usually get hit. And it's like, I was watching that. I was like, that's what Dante Pettis would never do. And that's why I wrote off Dante Pettis immediately. Like, you got to go for those balls. And Ayuk's he's a tough dude. I think he's a good wide receiver. He may not be a guy who averages 17 yards a catch, but I think Devontae Adams is a possession receiver, right? He's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Adams, so it's kind of tough too. And maybe this is something that can help a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. Adams had Aaron Rodgers, who even if you don't have much separation, he's still going to put the ball in the only place where you
True.
can catch it. All you got to do is just stick your hands out there. Then next thing you know, the ball is in your hands,
That's true.
right? And Devontae Adams obviously had terrific hands. So maybe something like that could definitely help Brandon Ayuk. But you don't have Aaron Rodgers. Well, most teams just don't. So you're going to have to figure out different ways to win. And that was something that took Devontae Adams a few years to learn how to win at the NFL level. Killed everybody at Fresno State. I mean, maybe only Michael Crabtree had better college numbers than Devontae Adams for two receivers who only played 2 years in college. He
Yeah.
tore it up at Fresno State. But winning at the NFL level is different. And it took him a few years to learn that. And Ayuk is now about to be a few years in. That's something he still might be trying to figure out how to consistently free himself up so that he's an easy target for the quarterback.
Yeah, when they first paired him and Deebo, I thought Deebo would be like the possession receiver because he's 220 pounds and he can take the hits over the middle. But Ayuk has really gotten a lot bigger and stronger, and he has those really long arms. So really, if you're throwing the dig over the middle, Ayuk gives you just more, like
Room for
room
error.
for
Like,
error. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And he
yeah.
went today and made a very difficult catch while taking a hit. And that's the kind of thing where you once you see a guy do it one time, it's like, okay, that's major respect. That's a difficult catch. So I do respect him. I think he's a good player. He's just not the wide receiver I thought he would be.
And I think that's fair. That's my thing too. And I would say maybe not the wide receiver the 49ers thought he would be.
Yeah.
At least not yet, right? And that's
Yeah.
why Kyle Shanahan, he's really been tough on him. But, they drafted Deebo Samuel second round, obviously
Mhm.
at the top of the second round. But then they turned back around, and I feel like if you believe Deebo Samuel is your wide receiver one, him heading into that next year, you don't
You know,
trade up for a receiver and draft him in the first round.
no.
Because now you're talking about, well, what about when we have to pay Debo? Or what if
Right.
I'm assuming you're thinking, well, we're not ever gonna have to pay Debo a ton of money.
Right.
So let's go out and get somebody else that we feel like can bring us a little bit more, and Debo can potentially be that wide receiver too. Well, Debo goes off for 1,400 yards, and then Ayuk so far hasn't been, I'd assume, what they expect him to be, which is probably your
Dominant.
either one or two target on your team. And right now he's kind of stuck in third.
Right. Like when they got Ayuk, it was right after Debo's rookie year, and you sort of looked at Debo as, okay, he'll be like the number 2 wide receiver gadget guy. But Ayuk will be the complete guy who's the number 1 wide receiver.
Right.
Now it's like, no. Debo is like Tyreek Hill plus, and Ayuk is like Sammy Watkins. You know what I mean? But a little bit better. I mean, Sammy Watkins, I don't think would have made the tough catch over the middle today that I saw Ayuk make. Ayuk's a tough dude. He's really strong.
Yeah.
Really strong. Maybe too strong. But if that's how they're going to use him as the possession receiver over the middle, maybe he needs to be that big. So anyway, he's evolving.
Yeah. I think he's just kind of got some like this natural kind of strength to him.
He's got really wide shoulders, is what I've noticed. Hella strong. Bull Uppercutter says, any early guesses on who the Niners trade for midseason?
Ooh. That's tough. And it's hard to tell right now. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say some kind of guard or center potentially, right? Like that's the one position where it's like you might have to try to make some type of move. Just right now, it's just like who? It would have to be a team that's doing kind of a fire sale where, midway through the year they're like, we're out of it. We're tapping out. Maybe we can move a guy and get some draft capital. So it would probably have to be a situation like that.
Remember, they traded for Laken Tomlinson before week 2, 2017. They could do something like that. Khalil Brasher says, so we have a running back who can hit a second gear like Mostert. Yeah, not like Mostert. No one has a second gear like Mostert, but it's like kind of like Deebo. Deebo's not really trying to make people miss when he runs outside zone as a running back. He's just trying to run through arm tackles, and he does it really well. That's kind of what Ty Davis Price tries to do. You see, if you take the wrong angle, he will blow through your arm tackle, but he's not going to stop and spin and do all hella shit, which is cool. That's kind of the Niners style. Callie Tremor, thank you. Jats. When are you going to get access to the locker room? After cut down day. They won't let us in with 90 people in there. Callie Tremor says, seems as if Parag has his finger on the pulse of the Niners players when it comes to how much and when players get paid. York's Parag's puppet. Been there forever. Probably knows all the secrets, the family secrets.
Yeah. And I mean, there's good and bad with that. Just kind of understanding some things from a financial standpoint that can potentially hurt the 49ers down the line with these contract negotiations, but I just don't know. Because for me, when I signed my NFL contract, it was pretty straightforward. Like whatever it said in there, I was gonna sign it. So
Josh Godman says, have you heard anything about adding a center? No, but they should look into it. The Meg says, Aiyuk highlights are all him catching in traffic, bouncing off a cornerback and running for yards. He's good. I'm high on him. Yeah, I thought when he was a rookie, he had sort of that ability to create big-time separation with his route running. Now I think he's more of a contested catch guy. At least that's what I've been seeing from him. But
I am looking for more. When you watch him in college, he's spinning guys around the line of scrimmage. The run after catch is really good. We have not seen that at the NFL level.
Right.
Every blue moon, you see it. Like one catch last year against the Cardinals, Trey Lance threw it kind of on his back shoulder. He caught it and then spun out of there. It's like, okay, that was good. Look, there you go. And then the one where Trey Lance threw the slant to him over the middle, kind of bounced off a tackle and got out of there. But for the most part, just thinking, oh, I'm going to see him catch passes, make a guy miss, and run off for another 15, 20 yards. We haven't quite seen that from him.
No. 49ers for Life 1982 says, I saw a tweet that Trey Lance was super bad today, and that's how he will be. You were there. Please explain. Nah, he was 6 for 14. Two passes were dropped. Wasn't a good day, but like to put it in perspective, Jimmy has days like this all the time. So if you're a Jimmy fan and you're like, that's no big deal, then today's like no big deal. If you think it's a big deal, then you probably were white knuckling every single practice that Jimmy had. I'm just saying. Eric says Drake Jackson's still out of shape. How does he look? Thinner. Looks better. He has really big legs. I'll give him credit for that. Really long arms. Just had a little bit of a tummy and it's going away. I'm just saying he looked. I was
I saw him draft night. I saw the pictures and yeah.
Surprised, but no, he does. He definitely looks better. Flav says, think Kyle decided to draft TDP after Mitchell got stuffed in the NFC Championship game. TDP basically same exact height, weight, 40 times Deebo. That is true. Vision is legit. Love him in third down role. He looked better than Hasty. Oh, I don't know about the third down role. To me, he's a 2-down running back. I don't know if he gives you much on third down. That's why I think that Hasty makes.
He's good in pass protection.
He is good in pass protection. That's true. But I think I still think Hasty makes his team. He's the only third down back on the team, and Kyle seems to like having a third down back. I don't know. Thanks, Flav. All right, moving on. I wanted to tell you this. From what I've seen in 2 days, Emmanuel Mosley is one of the more improved players in the team. He seems like he gets better every year. Last year, they backed him off and had him playing kind of soft coverage after he had some penalties. This year, no. He's right up in Brandon Aiyuk's face every day, and he hasn't given up a catch yet. He's broken up 3. He almost had a pick. Today, Lance fit one right over. It was a perfect throw. It was great coverage. Lance threw it right over Mosley. I had it turned around and caught it like this. Mosley knocked it out of his hands before he hit the ground. It was a great pass breakup. He's a really confident vet. How good do you think he can be?
He's good. I think when you look at really the tandem of the two guys, like that's exciting. I feel like he's been one of the, I won't say one of the better corners in the league, but it's like, man, this is a good starting NFL corner.
His numbers are really good.
And it would be nice to have him play at the line of scrimmage more. I thought that the 49ers, which was really weird, I thought they played really soft for corners that are more known to play more like press man. And even Emmanuel Mosley, like that, he played at the line of scrimmage at Tennessee. He wasn't doing all that off stuff. So, they back guys off, had them playing about 8 yards off. They're reading zone concepts and things like that, keep things in front of you. But I definitely felt like if he just challenged himself a little bit more at the line of scrimmage, he's a guy that can play with guys. I mean, we've seen him in his coverage of DK Metcalf at the line of scrimmage, breaking up slants, running go routes with him. I'm excited about what I've heard so far. And, I talked about how typically the defense is typically a step ahead to start training camp, like every team I've been on. But if you're talking about a man being pressed up outside and he's locking you down, well, he's just locking you down because he just feels like he's better than you. That's different, So that's something I'm definitely going to keep an eye on, that battle right there. And hopefully, in the process, it just makes Aiyuk better. Because right now it sounds like a little struggling against the corners, the outside guys right now. I did hear that he was beating guys like Ambry Thomas stuff. So
he is, but that's sort of the issue that the offense is going through right now. Lance is going through right now. Pass protection isn't great, and the corners are shutting stuff down. Everything has to be over the middle. It's kind of interesting. With Mosley, I'd like to see him cover Deebo because he's a good corner, but then I still can't forget Week 1, 2020 when they put him on DeAndre Hopkins. He gave
14 catches.
Yeah, something like that. So can you really match up with the best of the best? He's not right now. He's matching up with Aiyuk, who's
There were
not the
some
best.
guys that were upset with that game plan, and I remember there's some
Yeah,
veterans
Robert
that
Sala was
didn't
like, we put
care.
Mosley on him and line up 15 yards off the ball, and just like, why are you conceding all these catches? And I
Yeah,
thought
I
Sala
got
was like,
some
well, they're not
DMs
big
from
games.
DMs from a veteran that did not care about that game plan. Yeah.
I think I know who it was, but I'm not gonna say it. But I feel it. Emmanuel Mosley. All I can say is I don't know how good he's gonna do against DeAndre Hopkins this year, but against Brandon Aiyuk, he's better than Brandon Aiyuk. I'm sorry, Brandon, but Emmanuel Mosley's got you right now, and that sort of says how good of the corner. If he could just catch the ball when it hits him in the hands, he would be a Pro Bowler, I think. But right now, like his man coverage is tight, and yeah. Anyway, as opposed to Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas having a tough 2 days, man. Maybe he'll turn it on, but anytime the Niners need to make a quarterback look good, it's like throw it Ambry. Sorry.
Is Trey Lance? Does Trey Lance have the luxury to go against him? Because I know
No.
I know Sudfeld's going
Sudfeld
against
is
that group.
wearing him out.
Yeah.
Maybe they got to get.
What
Ambry
about Castro Fields?
I haven't noticed him giving up. He's playing with the thirds. So what happens is it'll be like 3-4 reps for the ones, 3-4 reps for the twos, and then 2 reps for the thirds. So I don't see him as much.
Yep.
But
I know how that is.
Sorry. I'll keep a closer eye on the third stringers for you and for people who care, because these guys are going to be in the practice squad. And he's a lot like Ambry in the sense that he's got all the physical gifts. It's just a question of what can he do at the catch point. That's my thing with Ambry. He reminds me of Chris Culliver. Super. I mean, he's the athlete you want, but when the ball is there, what's going to happen? And Culliver was just confused. Like he couldn't find it.
Yeah.
You could find it.
Big
you didn't
corner,
run a
Culliver was a big corner.
He was big. He was fast. He was a 4'3", 6 foot corner. You got in round 3. It's like, wow. It's like getting a Corvette used. It's like, wow, only 20,000. Yeah. Well, what's the problem with? You can't catch the ball. Can't find it. So I don't know. I know you intercepted a lot of passes. Not in the NFL.
Not in the NFL. Arena League, yes.
Matthew Sanders says, am I the only one who doubts Deebo can reproduce last year's production? He was on an insane pace. All due respect, but regression to the mean, probably fair. Last year was unprecedented.
It's hard to repeat 1,400 yards and, another 300 rushing and 14 total touchdowns. But if you were to tell me he had 1,200 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, and 180 rushing yards, I would say, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. How's Demo looking? Haven't heard nothing about him. He's playing opposite Ambry Thomas and benefiting from playing opposite of Ambry Thomas, if you know what I mean. But I think he's doing better. He really seemed to lose confidence last year. Mo, thank you. You asked what's going on with Jordan Mason. He's playing with the third stringers right now, like Ty Davis Price, and he is a less fast version of Ty Davis Price. Ty Davis Price has explosion. He's fast. Jordan Mason built the same way. He's like a 4.6 instead of a 4.5. But he runs really freaking hard. Which, again, Trey Sermon, did you get the picture? Look at Jordan Mason. Look at Ty Davis Price. This is what they want you to do. And, he does seem like he's in much better shape. So if he can run the way they want him to, he'll make the team.
Yeah.
One more. The coaches, I have a sneaky camp competition for Hasty, fellas. Jordan Mason, he's unreal in space and is actually an underrated pass catcher. You can get Hasty production with added size and physicality. Thoughts? Possible. Also, Trey Sermon has good hands too. So if they want to go like,
I haven't seen Mason at all. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. So
Jordan,
maybe that's something I'll dive into tonight.
He played in like the Georgia Tech triple option where he was like the up back doing the dives and stuff. So
it reminds me of when Jeff Wilson was coming back, and it was like, I knew he was on the team. I saw a guy wearing number 41 at the time, I believe, when he first showed up, and I just didn't really pay much attention to him. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, practice squad, and the guy that could potentially come up. And once he actually got to play, I'm like, hey, I like this kid. He runs hard.
If the Niners cut JaMychal Hasty and try to get him on that practice squad, do you think he'll make it, or do you think someone will sign him?
I could see him potentially making it. I believe that if you lost him, you wouldn't care. But if you are able to add him to the practice squad, you like that it's a guy that's been around. And, I mean, they utilized him in key situations, third downs, being a pass catcher. I mean, hell, think of the NFC Championship game when Jimmy threw that behind-the-back no-look interception. he was throwing to Jermichael Hasty. So
He was, Jermichael Hasty reminds me a little bit of, remember Chris Thompson on Washington?
yeah,
25. Shanahan's drafted him. He was supposed to be the change of pace back for Alfred Morris before they got fired. Anyway, I
remember him, the smaller pass catcher, and they had like Roy Halou.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Chris Thompson was good. I think Kyle likes him. I could be wrong, but if they can stash him on the practice squad, there's no reason to keep him. And I know they don't want to cut Trey Sermon after trading up in round 3 to get him and passing on offensive linemen who are now starting in the NFL.
Yeah.
Are there any more? There might be one last one. Big Tim 3 says, Grant, I know you got a job to do, but I don't care what you say. You still love the Niners, bruh. I grew up loving the Niners. What album covers are on your wall? They were my mom's albums. So I got them in honor of her. I got Prince 99. I got Morris Day. I got Rick James. I got Teddy Pendergrass, James Brown, Rick James again, Hall & Oates. Michael Jackson, but early Michael Jackson. Later Michael Jackson gets a little problematic. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel about his. Did you watch that? Anyway, we don't need to talk about Michael Jackson. Early Michael Jackson's cool with me, though. Croc, thanks a lot. I know it's later in Arkansas. I appreciate you coming on late. We usually do it.
All early. Good. Thanks for having me on, bro.
What do you tell people what you got going on the rest of the week?
Oh, man. Almost finished with all the podcasts for the week. I was on Bleacher Report today talking 49ers. That was pretty cool.
That's tight.
That was cool. Yeah, that was cool. It was like live. It was on their website. It was on. My friends got notifications, and it was like Eric Crocker was live talking 49ers on Bleacher. They're like, "What the heck, Croc?" Like, so that was cool. I was nervous as hell at first. I was sweating and stuff. I don't know, my face real shiny, but yeah, it was cool though. It was cool.
Gabriel says, "How's the defense compared to 2019?" I think this secondary is the best secondary they've had in a while. It's really good. And if Rhett comes back, watch out.
Somebody asked me about that. I still heading into 2019. Or not 2019, excuse me. Heading into 2020, I was more comfortable with where this secondary was as opposed to this year, just as a whole. But again, this group definitely has the potential to be better than what that group was. But heading into the year, it's like, man, you got, Witherspoon, he could be a starter. You got Emmanuel Mosley, he can start for sure. Right. You got Jason Verrett. You have Richard Sherman. He was coming off an all-pro year. You got Tart. You got Ward. It was just like, you got Kawhi Williams in the slot. It was like, that heading into 2020, it was like, I'm very comfortable with this group. It's really good, especially with this pass rush. But it just ended up being, guys just were getting hurt left and right. So,
Brian, I got you. DM me. I got you. I'll follow you back, and we'll work it out. Thank you, Brian. And say hello to your wife, Tony, who's doing the merch, and your daughter, who came through with the epic call on Cohn phone. See you, Brian. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll be back. Practice tomorrow. See you around.